Welcome to a special Can't Stop the Growth series, Win Your Mind, Win Your Market, powered by our friends at Chirp. I'm Chad Peterman, and around here, we believe growth starts from the inside out. In this series, we're zeroing in on the one thing that drives everything else, mindset. Because how you think determines how you lead, and how you lead determines how far you will go. We've partnered with the Chirp team, creators of the Win Your Mind, Win Your Market podcast, to bring you real conversations with leaders who've mastered their inner game and turned it into massive momentum. Whether you're building a business, leading a team, or just trying to get 1% better every day, this series is for you. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Win Your Mind, Win Your Market, the podcast where we dive deep into the mindset that drives business success. We believe that winning in business starts with winning in your mind. Every week, we bring you the biggest names in the home service space. Industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators who share their insights on how a winning mindset has shaped their journey to success. Get ready to explore the strategies, habits, and mental frameworks that can help you not only excel in your business, but dominate your market. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your business to the next level, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering the mental game of business. I'm Ryan Fenn with Justin Judd. Let's get started, because when you win your mind, you win your market. Hey everybody, Ryan here again for another episode of the Win Your Mind, Win Your Market podcast. With me, as always, is the seer of seer, prognosticator of prognosticators, Justin Judd is in the house. What's up, Judd?
Hey, what's up?
Okay, so you guys, I told you when we started this podcast that we would be bringing the best of the best, and today I'm fulfilling on that promise. We have Mr. Sean Michael Crane from Unstoppable 365 here in the building. So thank you so much, Sean, for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, I'm fired up to be here, man. Appreciate it.
Excited. So Sean, if you guys don't know who Sean is, there's really one way that I could sum up like his entire existence into one thing to just go to prove his worthiness of being on the podcast. He is the guy behind Tommy Mello's muscles. So that's like,
yeah.
That's dude, hey, Tommy's looking like an NFL linebacker, man. Yeah. He's 250 right now, you know?
Crazy. Yeah. His arms are insane, dude.
I want to tell you guys too how I connected with Tommy right now or later.
We will get into that. We will get into that for sure. So, but just so everybody knows, that's why you want to listen to Sean. I mean, obviously he's going to tell us a lot of really cool stuff, but just know that Sean works with the best of the best when it comes to business owners. He helps the best of the best train to become unstoppable. He is like just an absolute like shining light in our industry and other industries as far as health and wellness goes. And so I'm really excited to have him because we we've had other business owners in the home service space. This is kind of a different tack. Somebody who is in the home service space as a coach, guru, whatever you want to call it, but is actually, focused 100% on health and wellness as his business. So it's going to be a really fun ride. So, Sean, we like to kick things off. The whole goal here, we're super informal, but the whole goal here is, we talk about mindset. We talk about the importance of diving deep into what drives people, what can they fix in their minds. And your story, I've heard it, a couple of times, but like I want to dive in really deep into some of those things that you've talked about. You have a crazy story, so everybody buckle up for a ride today, because Sean has Sean, if you could see his six-pack right now, we'll probably have him take his shirt off at some point during the episode, but to go from where he has been to where he's at now is a journey like that should be documented and studied in science labs and across, it's insane. So I'm not going to take up too much time, Sean. I'd love to just hear like where did you start? Where are you from? Where did things kind of go wrong for you? And then tell us how you kicked them around.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's incredible. I really feel like I've lived like 2 or 3 lives to this point, you know. I'm 36, but my life now is so much different, like polar opposite to what it was for many years. I grew up in beautiful Santa Barbara, California. Like we were just talking about it, world class. I see people here all the time from different parts of Europe, Asia, people walking down the street speaking Chinese. Like tourists just flock here because it's a beautiful beach community. It's not as big as LA and Orange County. Like you can do a lot of fun things here, and there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of wealthy people buy homes here, and it's just world class. So growing up, I never realized that. I just thought, man, this is sweet. Like I got a bunch of cousins that live by me. The ocean's right here. I love to surf. I love to play sports with my friends and cousins every day. That's all I cared about. As a kid, all I wanted to do was play baseball, basketball, and football and go surfing. And I wanted to be a professional athlete, and I was good, and I was obsessed. Like I would come home at 9 years old and go in the backyard and throw the baseball against this brick wall we had and field ground balls, and then throw them on the roof and go and dive and catch them by myself. And then I'd go inside and watch Sports Center. Like that was my favorite show. At 9 years old, my favorite show was Sports Center. So that was my passion, man. And I was very passionate about life and sports, and I was competitive, and I wanted to be the best.
I got to ask this because I was the same way. I was throwing the tennis ball against my garage by myself, fielding it, throwing the ball up onto the roof, catching it. And you mentioned the word obsessed, but do you think people are born with that, or what do you think that is?
You know, I think it does have to do with your personality. It's innate. You know what I mean? Like I think so, like I see it in my daughter Scarlett. She is that way. She just got roller skates for Christmas, and at first she's falling all over the place. Like, you know, a little baby deer when they start walking, or a giraffe. That was her. She just did not know how to roller skate, and she would not take them off all day on Christmas Day. She fell many times. She would not take them off, even when she would cry, even when she'd scrape her little knee. And by the end of the day, she's roller skating through the house. Now every day she puts them back on, and she would not take no for an answer. She has that. That's her disposition. My son Preston, on the other hand, he's freaking chill. He wants to play with his little Ninja Turtles and his toys and do make-believe. He's not really that way. Like, he's more just kick back and chill. And he's easier to parent. You know what I mean? He doesn't fight me as much. Yeah. She will. But you know what? I know that she's going to go out and conquer some big dreams in her life because I just see it in her eyes, and that's who she is. So I love that, man. I think some people are born with that, and others maybe you can develop it over time through life circumstances. But I always had that as a kid. I always wanted to be the best, man. And I always had dreams of being a professional athlete, or the vision of being able to like buy my parents a home one day, or even like crazier scenarios. Like as a kid, I'd play these scenarios in my mind where, you know, a school bus went and crashed off a bridge, and I'd jump in the water and save people. You know, or you see things like that in movies. I always wanted to be the Rocky, the underdog, the hero. I just had that feeling inside of me. But I almost lost that, man. I was broken for a long time because at the age of 10 and 11, I started realizing, okay, my parents are struggling here. Something's going on different in my household than my friend's household or my cousins and my aunts and uncles. Like, something's wrong with them. And I'd see them drunk or fighting, or, you know, one night my mom got like a DUI and she didn't come home. And it was scary, man. I remember being a kid just up all night worrying about my parents all the time. And then at age 10 or 11, I saw my mom overdose for the first time. And she was literally lifeless on the ground in their bedroom. And me and my siblings are sitting there in the hallway staring into their room as my uncle's doing CPR on her. And my dad's standing there all confused because he was high. He was loaded. And I pulled my siblings into the room and closed the door. And I just remember that feeling, man, like that's something you never forget, you know? That's your mother. She brought you into this world. And I thought she was going to die. You know, the paramedics came, they took her out on a stretcher. And those are the things, they scar you. You never forget that shit. And it happened numerous times. She overdosed 3 or 4 times in front of us before the age of 12. And, you know, so at that point, man, my world started falling apart. My parents' addiction was progressively getting worse. They were battling drug and alcohol addiction. And my Uncle Mike lived with us. And as a kid, I thought, oh, cool, my Uncle Mike lives with us. He's a great human being. He was up for anything. He was fun. He was my dad's oldest brother. And as I got older, I realized he was living with us to protect us, to make sure the house didn't burn down, you know, to make sure that we were going to live. And he was the one that worked and paid the bills and provided for us. And my dad was a good person, man. Like, he had a great heart, but he had his demons that he could not overcome. And my mom, too, I want to feel that way about her. You know, I kind of lost connection with her, and she was just struggling so bad that after that stuff happened at home, I didn't really feel a bond with her. But so I'm trying to figure stuff out, man. I'm growing up. I'm getting older. My freshman year in high school, that's when everything just completely just fell apart. I came home one day, and my dad was blacked out drunk in his room, and he had a pistol on his lap, 45 Beretta. And he was going to shoot somebody or shoot himself. I don't know. I don't even know if he knew what he was going to do. He was just pissed, and he had a gun. It was scary. So we all went to leave, and the cops came, and they had a standoff in front of all of us. And I thought, man, my dad's about to get killed right now, you know? And he surrendered, man. For some reason, he didn't grab the gun. He surrendered, and they took him to jail. He ended up doing 18 months in prison. Well, the next couple of months, my mom went full-blown into her addiction, found a new boyfriend. She looked at it as an opportunity to finally get away from my dad, but she completely abandoned me and my siblings. So at the age of 14, I'm like going through freaking puberty, dude. I'm trying to figure out who I am. All of a sudden, I'm changing. The world's changing. I'm insecure. I'm self-conscious, and now I lose both my parents. And I remember going to school and people asking me, what happened? What happened? So I stopped going to school. I didn't want to be answering those questions. Like, I wanted to run from my truth, you know, the reality of things. So I stopped going to school, found new friends that I could identify with who were coming from broken homes and struggling like I was. And we started smoking weed and drinking and getting high together because that's the only thing that we could do to numb out the pain of our reality. And so from 14 until 23, all through high school, never stepped foot on a field, never played sports. Like, I did not pursue my passions. I had no goals or ambition. My number one obsession at that time was to get as high as possible and try to bury this pain. And the thing is, my dad would get out of prison or my mom would come back around high and losing her mind. So it wasn't like one event. It was a constant barrage of pain, of chaos, of the cops at our house, of fights. It was always, it was like a scab that's completely ripped open over and over and over. Like, there's no healing. It was just making it worse and worse and worse. And I mean, at 18 or 19, I think I was, my dad overdosed. And I had to give him CPR in the room and get him to breathe again until the cops came. Like, that was the type of life I was living, man. It was insane. And during that time, a lot of my friends accidentally overdosed because they would take pills and drink and forget that they took pills and take more, and they wouldn't wake up. My Uncle Jerry, who was a really good person, in and out of prison my whole life, he died in my garage at that time, accidental overdose. Like, this was the world I was in, man. And it was so painful. You know, I remember like many nights waking up because I couldn't sleep and just going in the mirror and like staring in the mirror and clenching my fists and just crying with so much like hurt and pain, dude. You know, like, why did my mom leave me, man? Why can't my dad get sober? Like, how did this happen to me in my life? Why did this happen? And I think a lot of people find themselves in that place where they can't accept what's taking place, whether it's a divorce or a loss of a loved one or just a tough season of life. And it's like they can't accept it, you know? And that was me for all those years. And so, like, fast forward, I got through high school. I started working a job for one of my uncles, doing manual labor as an arborist or
Before we go into that, I want to ask a question. Before we go into that next phase. So far, to sum it up, picture perfect family life is what you've told us so far. So everything's flowery and nice. No, just kidding. No,
I thought it was when I was younger.
Right. I want to ask about your uncle real quick that was there to take care of you guys like this. It seems like he was like an angel. Like
you said it perfectly. I mean, if there was a description, like a real life example of what a guardian angel is,
yeah,
it was my Uncle Mike. Like, the most selfless, loving human being I have ever met. He dedicated his whole life to raising us. He didn't have kids. He never got married. And he was incredible. Like, he was the one at all my practices. He was the one that would take me to the beach and watch me surf. He was, as a young kid, some of my earliest memories, actually, are me going out of my parents' bedroom, the TV's on, they're passed out, and I would go and climb into his bed and just like snuggle up next to him because he always represented that safety, that security, that comfort. And my mom used to get pissed. She would like come get me in the middle of the night or in the morning. She's like, why'd you go and stay in Uncle Mike's room? You know, it was because I felt safe. As a kid, we know right and wrong, man. We're drawn to certain energy. We're very attuned to things.
Yeah.
So that's who he was my whole life. He was the person that he saved my life, and it wasn't for him, I definitely wouldn't be here.
So he endured like the addiction and just knew and tried to hide that from you, tried to cover it up at least so that you had at least some stability. And like that to me is that's above human to me, because the ability to be there and commit to that, knowing that like your brother's being stupid and messing up, but like go, hey, I'm gonna be there for these kids. That to me is miraculous. That's just awesome. I love hearing that. It makes me think. It just drives my belief deeper in God, and like he's just like he sent that like he knew you had to go through these other things, but he sent that support to just make sure you could get through it, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Sean, I wanted to ask you something. So that's a heavy story, dude. I've never heard your full story, so this is the first time that I've heard your kind of entire story. That's pretty heavy. I went through a lot of my own stuff, and that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
What kind of have you gone back and looked at what kind of internal beliefs all of that stuff happening around you created in you? Because that stuff's it's heavy, and so it's affecting the way that you're living life, and it's affecting the way that you're viewing the world. Have you gone back and looked at any of those kind of specific limiting beliefs that it created that might have caused challenges later on?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And no one's actually asked me that specific question, but right when you asked it, what I realized is my belief system was already concrete and in place. Like when I told you that as a kid, I was a competitor, I wanted to be the best, like all the attributes that I shared with you earlier, that's at the core who I was. So when that stuff happened, and that's because of my Uncle Mike. As a kid, he'd always tell me, man, you could be the best at anything you do. Like you could be an athlete. You're so talented. You're gifted. He just instilled all these positive beliefs in me. And even my dad would tell me, you're a leader, not a follower. Like you're a good person. You're special. So they were always aware of how they were affecting me. But a couple things. When I was younger, I used to bite my nails. I was always nervous that something bad was going to happen. I started becoming like a parent to my parents at a young age. I was always very aware of what was taking place, and I almost became like a people pleaser at that time. I knew how to tell people the right thing. I knew how to calm situations down. So that's something that I had to evolve out of. Becoming a coach, you got to tell people the truth, not what they want to hear. Little things like that over time I've been able to change and transform. But the core of who I was really concrete and cemented into place. More than anything, I think I was just heartbroken. It was like losing a loved one or the worst breakup you've ever been through magnified times 1,000, because it's your parents and those are your people, man. And that's the best way I could describe it. It was just a lot of pain and a lot of hurt. And I was as close to as possible, though, to losing my true self. Like you see a lot of people who go through stuff like that and they never rebound. They change, they get addicted to something, or they have a pessimistic attitude during that time, but they can never get back to their true self, that core of who they are. And, that's what my later life circumstances allowed me to do. We'll get into that. But during that time from 14 to 23, I was so numb. I was angry at the world. I was in denial. Like it changed me drastically, but it was a temporary change.
Yeah. So that speaks to the importance of those early years, those early formative years, on how much they can affect us later in life. That's really cool that you were able to, even through those harder times, thinking back, you kind of go, yeah, when I was, when you're younger, that 8 to 12 range kind of seems like, and it sounds like even younger, where it's like you're kind of cementing a lot of things, and you were able to kind of get through that period and then deal with this other stuff. But I think that's really cool that you're able to hang on to that mindset and keep that concrete thing built in there. But you're brought to the razor's edge of that, right? To where it's like you're just on that edge of losing your mind, losing your concrete core value. So keep going. You hit 23. You're about to say you got a job, or what was that next?
Yeah. I mean, during that whole stretch where I was struggling, there would be moments of clarity where I'd be like, dude, I don't want to be this way forever. Like I was really close to feeling like that's who I was now, but part of me knew that wasn't my true self, And there was times where I was partying with all these friends and stuff, and I'd be like, man, I I don't want to be high and drunk my whole life. Like, I don't want to be this way. So deep down inside, I always knew that. And I think a lot of us, we have those sobering moments and that clarity, but then we suppress it again, you know? Like, one example is one day I was at the beach with all these kids playing football. It was senior week in high school, and I had reconnected with some of my old friends from childhood, and everyone was going to the beach, and they started drinking beers. We were drinking, and then they wanted to play a pickup football game. And these were all the athletes. So I played with them. And dude, I was great. Like, I was making interceptions, tackling people. I honestly was like the best player on the beach that day. And they were even saying to me, Sean, why didn't you play this year, man? Like, dang, you still got it. Like, you should have played on our team. And they were telling me I should go to Santa Barbara City College with them the next year and play football. And in that moment, I had a little buzz going, so it takes away your inhibitions and fears. And I was telling people, yeah, I'm going to enroll in City College. I'm going to play with you guys, man. Like, I felt so alive out there that day. Even the girls were watching me. Like, I was getting acknowledgement from all these people that didn't even know who I was. And then the next morning, I woke up and I was sober, and all of a sudden the fear hit me, and the doubt, and that voice inside of us that talks us out of our truth and our path in life. And it was like, man, who are you to think you could just walk on the field and play at City College? You even play in high school, you know? Like, what if you're not good enough? What if, like, they don't put you on the field? Like, all these doubts, man, and limiting beliefs surfaced in that moment. And I think that's a perfect example of what a lot of people struggle with their entire life. It's a moment of clarity where we know exactly who we want to be and what we want to do, but then we're confronted by that inner fear and doubt and worry about what other people think. And most people side with that voice their entire life. And you see it reflected in their results, you know?
Yeah.
Justin and I talk about this quite a bit. Justin's a universe guy. I'm a God guy. Same thing. We say it all the time. It's like we believe all the same stuff. We just use different terms for how it is. But like that inner voice, the devil, if you call it, you know, the person within you that is not you. It's that doubt that comes in. You know, I go back to the scriptures. I go back to Jesus when he says, I didn't give you I didn't give you fear. I didn't give you that. That's not from me. And it's like, once you realize that that's not from God, then you have this immediate paradigm shift of, shoot, why am I listening to this thing that's trying to drag me down? And I don't know, for me, that's been a big thing where, you know, anytime I have those feelings of that those fears, and, you know, we feel it all the time in business, all kinds of stuff where you're like scared of the future, scared of this and that, and you just go, once you have that shift of, it's like, it's not from God, shift, and you go, okay, let's just keep having that faith and keep moving forward. So some people have it like so strong, you know, like in your situation where it's like, man, they can't overcome that, and it feels like chains are wrapped around you, you know, and you're never gonna break them.
You know, it's the hardest thing and the easiest thing in the world simultaneously. So it's so hard to just trust in that voice, and like it takes an act of surrender and faith and courage. But once you do, and you start to understand, oh my gosh, this good voice that's calling me to live this life I want, that's the path. Yeah. And like, no matter what, it's always going to be okay. Even if it doesn't go as intended or how I thought it was going to, it always works out. And I'll get into this, but my whole life changed. I'm here today because of that pivotal decision to trust that voice, which I believe is the voice of God, however you want to describe it, versus that other voice. That other voice leads to unfulfilled potential, early death, a life of mediocrity, a wasted opportunity, you know? And that's like the reason we're all here, man. Like, you guys are business owners, or, you know, we're all entrepreneurs. We're all here to make an impact on the world, but it's also to help people become aware of that internal battle and to recognize exactly what we're describing right here.
Yeah. 100%. I want to touch on something real quick, and then you can keep going there. But when you were talking about, you know, you were partying and buzzed, and when you were feeling like that, you had a little bit more confidence, and you were letting your friends know, yeah, I'm going to go to college, this and that, and then it wears off, right? And then you wake up. Don't you think the other thing, in addition to some of the doubt, is the shame that comes in? You get sober and you feel shitty when you know you have the potential to be living this life, and you continue to choose this life. It's a really, really shitty feeling, man. I think shame is one of the most, I think it's the worst emotion that a human being can experience, because it keeps you stuck. It keeps you in a vicious cycle. You wake up and you feel shitty about how you're living life. And because you feel shitty about how you're living life, what does that make you want to go do again?
Yeah.
It makes you want to go numb it again. And so you just get in this vicious cycle. And when I got sober, there was a guy that came in and talked to us, and he was like, listen, he was like, if you guys really want to have a chance at staying sober, you have got to learn to forgive yourself. And he's like, and you don't sit and forgive yourself for one thing at a time, because you will always come up with something else to not forgive yourself for. He's like, you just have to forgive yourself as a whole and move forward. And I was actually, it's hard to explain how I did it. I can't really explain how I did it, but I did it right then and there. I forgave myself for everything that I had done in life. And I can't tell you the weight that was off my shoulders when I did that. And it allowed me to actually start working on myself instead of continuing to try to like cover up those feelings and do the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, dude, you're spot on. I mean, I like to study the human frequency chart too, if you've ever seen it. Like, we all put off an energy, right? Most people live in a constant pattern of that, where they have shame behind their decisions. And then the next thing that happens is a craving or desire to numb it out. And this is unconscious for most people. They crave food, they get on their phone, they go have that drink. They do whatever it is that they're ashamed about. And the cyclical pattern continues. And so most people are unconscious of this. But you hit the nail on the head, man, because like, healing and forgiveness is key, and it's paramount to our growth and becoming our best selves. But then it's a continuous process of improving ourselves, keeping our promises to ourselves, building that confidence and esteem. And that's how the healing really takes you into that next place in life where things can get much better. And that's what happened to me. But it didn't happen in a place like a rehab or an AA meeting. It happened in a much different place. So I'll tell you what happened. When I was 23, I was, I'd worked a little bit for my uncle's company, which was really good. I was climbing trees, carrying brush.
Is this Uncle Mike still?
No, Uncle Mike was at home, just trying to hold everything together. I got out of high school and I went to work for my Uncle Mark, who was one of my dad's brothers. My dad was one of 9 children, 7 boys, 2 girls. Irish Catholic family from Boston, moved to California. They're crazy, right? They're wild. And so that's where my roots are from. But I was doing this hard manual labor every day, and I was getting paid $1,000 cash. And I'd go home and I'd give my Uncle Mike $900 every week on Friday. And like clockwork. And I remember my friends would go, dude, you're working so hard every day and you're giving all your money away. I didn't look at it like that at all. I looked at it as an opportunity to finally give back and contribute, because I had younger siblings who were still going to school, and we were barely able to pay the rent and buy groceries every month. And so now I was able to financially contribute. And that was something, that I was really proud to do. And because growing up, I saw a lot of crazy stuff at home, but some of the more positive values that were instilled into me were like, loyalty, work hard, family, you do the right thing, you be a good person. Like my dad and my uncles were from back east, so they were all about class and integrity. Even though they were criminals, they had the old mobster mentality where like you still had to show respect to people. You weren't a thug, you know what I mean? Like, you carried yourself a certain way. We just chose to make money illegally. You know what I mean? But so I had that instilled into me, and I did that all the way until I was 23. So from 18 to 23, I was doing that tree work, helping to provide. And then at 23, went through a breakup with a girlfriend I had at the time. I had been trying to get sober. I was kind of living a decent life. I had this girlfriend. We had a dog and a cat, and, we were living by ourselves. And I thought, man, maybe I'm finally getting over like that hump. Maybe the other side is going to be better. But like Justin said, I hadn't dealt with the issues that plagued me. I didn't deal with the hurt, the shame, the resentments. They were still very much internalized. So when that girl and I broke up, I was heartbroken, man. It was the first time I had been with somebody who we broke up, and I went full blown back into my addiction. I was drinking way more, taking way more pills, way more drugs. It was almost like I had a death wish, honestly. Like I was just trying to just end it, man. And there was so many nights, to be honest with you, I am lucky to be here. Like, I don't even know how I lived through that time and before then. When I was younger, too, I was so reckless. Like, I would drink a half a bottle of Jack Daniels, take Xanax, take all this stuff. I didn't know what I was doing. I was a youngster. And I can't believe I lived through that time, So then the same thing during this period when I was 23. I was just so bad. And it's crazy how things work, man. I started coming back to Santa Barbara to reassociate with old friends and like kind of get away from the heartbreak and meet new girls. And that's when I met my wife, Jessica, at that time. You know, we had grown up together in elementary school and junior high, but never talked, never hung out, went to the same high school. She's a year younger than me. And she and I connected at that time. And like, dude, I loved her right away. There was something so special about her. I was so drawn to her. And I was wild, though. We had a wild, tumultuous relationship for 3 years, 3 months at that time. And then she's like, dude, I can't deal with you. Like, you're not boyfriend material. You're crazy. You're coming in through my window at 5 a.m., sleeping on the couch. Like, you can't be doing this stuff, you know? She loved me for how I was, but she couldn't deal with me at that time, you know? But the crazy thing is, like, we met in those moments for a reason. There was something created there. There was a spark. There was a connection. And then a month later, I got arrested. And so I got arrested because I went to a party that was in Santa Barbara on a beautiful area called the Mesa, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, right on the cliffs, multi-million-dollar homes. I got invited there by a friend, and I went, and it was just a bunch of people I didn't know. And I was just talking to girls, socializing, getting drunk. I probably had done a bunch of drugs that night too. And then all of a sudden, these two groups of guys start squaring up on each other and arguing, and it was some old beef that was being rehashed. And then it died down, and then again later in the night, it started up again. And so by that time, I was really intoxicated. And the way I was is when I went to parties, you know, there was always usually a fight, and a lot of times I was involved. I was a young, drunk, wild person who had a lot of anger and resentment inside of him. I was never a bad person. I never wanted to, like, inflict harm on people. I don't have that in me. But when I would drink and somebody would bump me or there'd be an altercation, I wouldn't shy away from a fight. And I got in a lot of fights. Like, I got crooked fingers and scars to prove it because I was so sad and broken in life, man, that I would, like, then take it out on people. It would come out of me when I was drunk, you know? So this night, I wasn't intending to fight, though. I just wanted to watch the fight. I wanted to be right there and see this brawl. So these two groups of guys are squaring off, and all of a sudden someone hits one of the guys, and it just completely turns into this huge brawl and melee. And I'm watching right in front of me, and I get blindsided from this guy. I get tackled and slammed into a car and thrown on the ground. And I'm like, damn, dude, these guys are jumping me. Like, they just thought that I was on the other side, and they're going to kick my ass right now. And when I went to the ground, I got this guy on top of me, and I'm expecting to start getting kicked and punched in the head. Like, that's how it goes, right? One person holds you down, the other guys stomp you out. And nobody was kicking me, and no one was hitting me. So I'm like, okay, this is weird. I'm trying to, like, get this guy off of me, back and forth, and try to roll him over. And this was a big dude, and he would not budge. And then finally, I was able to, like, slide out from under him, and I threw 2 punches towards him as I was getting up. I was, like, on one knee, and he was kind of on the ground. I threw 2 punches that just skimmed the side of his head. I didn't even hit him hard. So when I stood up, he stayed face down on the ground. And immediately, like, I remember thinking, that's weird. I didn't knock him out. Like, I didn't hit him hard. And I stood up, man, and my friend, the only person I went to the party with that I knew, is calling me over to him. Sean, come here, let's go. Let's get out of here. And everyone's running. And I get under the lights like this in the street, and his eyes light up. He's like, dude, what the hell, man? And I'm just dripping blood all across my face, down my shirt, on my arms, and not just like a bloody nose. Like, it wasn't my blood. It was somebody else's blood, and it was a lot. And in that moment, he freaked out. He's like, what the hell did you do? What happened? And I said, dude, I didn't do anything. What do you mean? And he just runs up the street. He's like, let's go. We got to get out of here. And so I start following up the street, him up the street. You hear sirens and cops coming. And he had called a cab like 30 minutes earlier because we were actually going to leave the party. And so we jumped in the cab, went back to his place, and literally just passed out. And the next morning I woke up with the worst feeling in the world. Like, something really bad happened. You just know your life's about to change. And I Googled fight on the Mesa, and it said 2 men had been stabbed and one was in critical condition, and they didn't think he was going to survive. Like, he was in a coma. And I knew that the cops were going to look for me. And as naive as I was at that time, I thought they were going to come question me and try to get me to tell on who did it. Like, what did I see? Who did this assault? And they came about a couple hours later, and they came deep, dude. They had the forensic unit, this big old, like, van, like RV, you know? Like, it was literally the forensic unit. They had SWAT team, they had the dogs, and they had AR-15s, and they arrested me at gunpoint. They put the AR-15 to my head, they put me on the ground, and they arrested me. And when they took me to jail, they told me that they were booking me in for attempted murder. And they thought I was the person who stabbed that guy. Because everyone at the party saw me throw those 2 punches. They saw me wrestling with the guy. They didn't see the initial attack. No one did. It was dark. Everyone was drunk. But a lot of people said we saw Sean wrestling with this guy who turned out to be stabbed. And to be honest with you, the chain of events and the way that it all was written up in the police report and the way that it looked, it was something out of a book or a movie, man. Like, you couldn't have scripted this thing to be any more deliberate to make me look like the assailant. Like, it was crazy. And so, that was the moment my life literally changed forever.
That's insane.
Dude. Gosh.
That's
So-
crazy, dude.
That's what I'm
Yeah, and even telling it,
crazy,
it seems surreal. Like, it doesn't seem, you see those movies, right? Or read a book, you're like, dude, that's crazy. But you don't ever think it could happen to you. Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't seem logical or feasible that Ryan or Justin or Sean could go through that. But I freaking did, man. And it was crazy. It was the scariest, most surreal thing I've ever experienced by far.
It's one of those things where you start to think of, like, we used to do these like accountability exercises where you try to make everything your fault, right? So that you can just be better at taking accountability. And at first you want to be like, dude, I didn't stab this guy. I didn't do this thing. Then you start to look at it and go, okay, why was I at this party? Was I doing what I should be? And like start taking back, like where in what got me to this point in my life where even though I didn't stab the guy, I'm in a position now where I have to answer for this. And that's just crazy.
That right there, that thought process is what helped me to start changing my life. But initially, I'm in shock. I'm like, no way. Because dude, I went into county jail and you get booked in, you go to the holding tank, and, in California, it's all racially segregated, right? So I go with the white guys. You got the, Mexican gang members over here, blacks and like Asians over there. And all the white guys looked at me and they were kind of checking me out because they all had green bands on their arm. And I had a blue band. And a blue band means you're facing a life sentence. So they knew I was in there for something serious, man. And not just the fact that I was, at that point, I still thought I was going to get out. I still thought, man, this is screwed up. This is scary, but the truth has to come out. But then I start coming off of all the drugs and alcohol I was on. At that time, I was addicted to opiates. So those first couple nights in county were miserable. Like, I couldn't sleep. I felt so sick. I'm coming off of all these drugs. My life is hanging in the balance. And, the first day I went to court, I was kind of excited to figure out what the hell's going on. I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some positive news. Like, oh, man, we figured out what happened. They're reducing your charges. Like, this is going to be okay. And that's not what happened. I walk into the courtroom shackled up at my wrists and ankles, and there's all these people from the news press there. They're taking my picture. The whole courtroom's packed. And I see my lawyer up front talking with the DA and the judge, and she starts walking towards me. She looks scared. Her eyes are just all big, deer in the headlights. I'm like, oh my God. And she goes, hey, I don't want to scare you right now, but I got to tell you what's going on. She's like, the judge and the district attorney are thinking about amending your charges to homicide today. The victim that they accused you of stabbing, he's in a coma. He hasn't come out of the coma. They don't think he's going to make it. And like, that was the first thing I heard in court. And it was surreal, man. In that moment, I couldn't even grasp reality. Like, it didn't even seem real at that point.
Dude, I can't imagine. Because, your first thought in that kind of situation is not the accountability pattern. It is, out of all the shit that I have done in my life, this is the one thing that I actually didn't do. Yeah. And you are trying to find any freaking way out of it. I've been in the situation, totally a lighter situation, but a similar situation where you're like, dude, I've done so many things that I haven't gotten in trouble for, and I've done so many things that I have gotten in trouble for, but I actually didn't do this one thing, and that will eat you up inside, dude.
And it was the biggest, worst thing ever. Here, like what Ryan was saying earlier, I did a lot of stuff in my life that I shouldn't have done. I've hurt people in fights. I've committed crimes. I got DUIs that I actually got in trouble for. I shouldn't have been at that party. I shouldn't have been that close. I shouldn't have been so drunk. Like, all that stuff. I did not stab the guy that they accused me of stabbing. I didn't have a weapon during that fight. I didn't, I was literally there to watch the fight. I got pulled into it, but I shouldn't have been. See, here's the thing. And this is what really helped me to take, like, eventually accept what was happening and fight to persevere versus become a victim of circumstance. Is that thought process. Is realize, I had to sit in a cell 24/7. So here's the thing about county jail. When you go in there, there's stuff that happens and you're put in situations where you defend yourself or you're getting involved in the mix. After that court appearance, you go back to court and no one cares. They're all facing their own time and sentences. And people are doing drugs in there. People are burning each other. They're fighting. So anyway, I got in a fight and I got moved back to another part of the county jail. Got in another fight. We were getting high on drugs in there because someone brought drugs in
to get sentenced.
Yeah, so someone brought drugs in, and I get high with them, and I'm like, this is awesome, man. I don't even have to worry about my problems anymore. Like, it all went away. And, dude, so I got in 2 fights in a row, and I'm put in this isolation cell, and I'm coming off these drugs, man. We had been up for like a night or two, feeling so horrible, coming off the drugs.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I gotta bring up something that's just insane because I've thought about this about myself so many times. You just got charged with attempted homicide. You were dope sick when you went in. You just got locked up. I mean, your life could not have been any lower, and yet you get high when you can.
Yeah, that's the.
Do you get what I'm? Do you get how it's just?
Oh yeah, that's the sickness, bro. Like, but in the moment, it was the best thing because it could numb me.
It numbed you.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was complete rock bottom. I remember I was sitting in that cell. And my skin felt all nasty, and I'm sucked up, and I'm just hurting. And there's this mirror in the cell. I mean, it's so tiny, I could literally reach out and touch both walls. It's a 6x cement concrete cell, And I'm looking in this scratched up mirror at my reflection, and it hit me. I'm like, what are you doing, Sean? You're doing the same shit in here right now that you were doing out there. Like, what are you doing? It just hit me. Reality sunk in for me, And in that moment, something started to change. I realized, like, I can't do this. I can't continue on this path. I'm not going to make it out of here, man. And, the next thing that hit me was really tough to deal with. But I started thinking about my entire life to that point and all the stuff I didn't do and all of the goals I had as a kid and the dreams and the passions. And this is what still drives me to this day, you guys. There was this person I wanted to be, man, more than anything. And I had sold myself short. I had let the stuff with my parents and at home affect me to the point where I didn't go after my dreams and become the person I wanted to be. And I really felt like my life was over and I was never going to get a second chance. And I feel like I experienced something that people will feel on their deathbed, where they can start to replay all the memories of their life. They think about all their relationships, all their decisions. I had nothing but time, 24 hours a day in that cell. And I replayed every moment of my life, man. And I realized that I did not live the life that I wanted to live. And I had not shown people my true potential and who I really was. And in that moment, man, that regret was the worst pain I had ever known. Like, it burned to the core of my being. And this is what drives me every day to be a coach and a speaker and to impact as many lives as possible, is I know so many people are on that path right now to regret. So many people are going to look back and realize they gave 10, 20% to this life when they had so much more to give, so much more strength, so much more ability. Like, human beings are immensely resourceful and brilliant and creative and strong. And, I'm not like different or better than anybody. But what I realized is my circumstances required me to be much better than the average person. Because at that point, my life was on the line. And I was facing life in prison and nobody believed me. And I'm around really bad people and I'm in a really bad place and I'm hungry and I'm lonely and I'm an addict and all these things, man. And so in that moment, I made a decision that I was going to fight and I was never going to contribute to that feeling again. And I didn't feel guilty for the crime whatsoever. But like Ryan said earlier, I felt so damn guilty for the life that I had lived. I felt so guilty for just living as a shadow of the person I could have been. I was supposed to be in college going to the MLB. Like, I was supposed to be living such a different life. And so previously, that feeling was then aimed at my parents. Oh, but they did this, but they did that. And so that was the moment I took accountability for all my decisions in my life and everything. And I made 2 promises to myself, and I talk about this a lot. The first one was just that I had to be my true self, my best self. No matter what I was doing in life, I had to be authentic, real, and I had to give my best effort to everything I did. I didn't care if I was in that cell forever. Like, I would do anything within reach or within my ability to the best of my ability. Like I had to, for me, man, that my change started because I had to do it for me. And the second promise that I made in that moment was that I was going to be sober for the rest of my life. Because I knew if I wanted to seek redemption and somehow, some way live a better life without being sober, I didn't have a shot in hell. And in that moment, I thought about all the people that had died, all my family members that were afflicted, all the stuff I saw, and I just made a commitment that I was going to be sober forever. So that was 12 years ago, man. I've been sober ever since that day. That commitment right there, that was the defining moment of my life, where I said, I'm changing. And dude, when you really want to change, you guys, nothing will stop you if you want it bad enough like that.
Dude, I can't tell you how cool it is to hear your story, because through your story, I'm feeling my story and feeling what I have the hardest time explaining to people. Different situations, but the same feeling. Before I got help this last time, I had a stroke. It paralyzed half of my face. I woke up every day with a half paralyzed face. I slept with one eye open, literally. Yeah. And waking up, looking at myself in the mirror every day, seeing myself like that, it was a direct reflection of how I was feeling inside. It was an internal rock bottom. And when I got to that point and I felt that shitty, it was like, all right, dude, it's either time to give up or change. And luckily, I'm not the type of person to give up easy, and so I decided to change. And when I decided to change, I took 100% accountability for where I was at in life. It wasn't anyone else that got me there. It wasn't the court system. It wasn't it was me that got me there. And I was the only one that was going to get myself out of there. And then the second decision I made was that it didn't matter what the circumstance, what the emotion, what the situation was, I would never pick up another substance in my life. And I haven't looked back. So it's really cool to hear you share your story like that, just because it reminds me so much of the feeling that I went through. And that is, for anyone out there that's gone through that, that is a tough feeling to experience. It's hard to explain how low you can feel at that point in life.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. I'm proud of you, and I'm grateful that you had to go through that stuff in a weird way. Like, we never want somebody to hurt and suffer like you did or like I had to, but it can change and save your life, It's crazy what we have to experience and endure to finally change, Like, this close to losing your life, And the situations are different, but the way that we internalize it and a lot of the growth or transformation that takes place is very similar. Like what you just described.
It seems that, and I truly believe this, that our lives are and our experiences are custom tailored to what we specifically needed to go through. And, you see some people that have, seemingly more, easier lives, and they go through their challenges and their struggles, but everybody seems to have everybody that's successful, that's been through something, that's been through life, period, has gone through a story. This podcast we talk about, it's like I always think that somebody on the podcast is going to come on and just talk about how great their life has been their whole life, and it's always the same pattern of, we had to go through this thing, and I think, you have these angels come along, and people go, well, if God loves you, like, why doesn't he just take it away? And I think, you get like your Uncle Mike, and I think angel number 2, your wife, it's like, God knows you got to go through these things to get to where you need to be, but he's going to put that support along the way to make sure you get through it, if you will recognize that. So I think it's just so amazing to hear. And I know right when you said that, I know everybody listening to this in their car or wherever they're at started cheering or whatever it was, or crying. But like, to say you've been sober since that day is such a powerful, powerful moment. And it's like, it's just what it takes. And it's what it took for you to step into your power, to become godlike, to become in my belief, a child of God, where it's like, hey, now I'm of divine purpose. I have a greater reason for this.
It was that belief too that really helped me. So before I went to jail, like a couple months before, one of my friends made a reference to God, and I looked at him. I was almost angry. I said, there's no God. It's like, I mocked him. I was like, you think there's a God? I was angry that he said that in front of me. Yeah. And so sitting in my cell for all that time, when you have so much time to think and reflect, you find a depth within yourself that very few people will ever be introduced to. And it was profound for me. But God started speaking to me in that cell. And the more that I got sober and the more time that passed and the more clarity that I got, I remember I had this moment where I realized definitively, without a shadow of a doubt, that God is real and I believe in God and God is here with me. And I remember the moment, I said it out loud and I had like these chills and this feeling go through my body. I said, God is real. Like I had a cellmate at the time and he would get, this is crazy. This is actually, he was my second angel. So I finally got celled up with somebody after those fights and all that stuff. It was one of my childhood friends. We used to skateboard and surf together. His name's Ryan Zietlow. He grew up around the corner from me. He'd come over. He knew my whole family. He'd have dinner with us. And he was a couple years older than me. What are the odds of him being on that same tier? And he had a little pull with the cops, and they let us cell up. He said, hey, let me cell up with Crane. I know he's going through a hard time. Like, he was looking at a life sentence, too, and he did some bad shit, and he just went down a bad path in life. And he's still in there to this day, by the way. But we celled up, man, and it was crazy because I was so lonely and scared at that time, and I'm making these commitments about who I want to be. But I didn't know the system and like the ins and outs of jail and everything. He really schooled me and put me up on a lot of game. And it was just a familiar face, you know? So for 8 months, we lived together in this tiny little box, this cement box. And we would do burpees and work out together. We started talking about what life could be like if we were sober and we were positive and we were good people. And I saw him hitting his knees every morning and reading the Bible. Out of all people in the world to be reading the Bible, this guy, like, he was the craziest, worst dude. You know what I mean? There's no way this guy's reading the Bible. And it started getting my attention. And I was like, man, what, you know, and we started talking about God. And I'd read some Bible verses with him and we would just talk about, you know, stuff and things that we had never discussed before. But I remember one day I was sitting on the top bunk and he was down below. And I just said out loud, hey, Ryan, there is a God, isn't there? His name was Ryan Zietlow. And when I said that, it wasn't me asking him. It was confirmation. I knew it. Something inside of me knew it. And in that moment, man, I never felt alone ever again on my journey through prison. You know, that's when everything really started to change, because earlier we touched on those two voices that we have inside of us, the voice calling us to do good and the voice that's trying to hold us back and sabotage our potential. That's when that good voice got really loud. And I just said, you know what? I have nothing to lose, man. Like, I'm going to listen to this voice. And if it just fails me, oh, well, at least I tried. But that's when things progressively started getting better. And I'd have visits from family members and stuff. And I seemed so cool and carefree about things. And they're like, aren't you mad? Like, aren't you mad at the DA and the people that aren't helping you? Like, my Uncle Mike would come to see me and he wanted me to get out, you know? And he'd be like, aren't you like pissed off? Aren't you mad? And I was like, nah, man. Like, I truly knew that was, I came to believe that God put me in that cell for a reason. You know, I remember thinking like, gosh, if I didn't come to this jail cell, I wouldn't have got sober. I'd probably be dead. This is an opportunity to get sober and save my life. This is an opportunity to get away from my dad and all those toxic friends I had and really focus on me and who I need to be as a person in this life. And I came to believe that God put me in that cell for a reason. And it was a blessing in disguise. And I couldn't fully understand it right then and there, but I just knew it, man. I felt it in my heart, like, this is going to save me. This is going to change me. I needed this. And I welcomed it, man. That's when I looked at my incarceration as an opportunity. And so when I went to prison, this was 8 months of transformation. Like, imagine if you guys could just disappear for 8 months, and whether you read the Bible or you journaled, you worked out every day, you're in the woods, in nature, like, you would come back a different version. You know what I mean? You would find some layers inside of you that you never discovered. So by the time I went to prison, you know, they sentenced me to 7 years. And my whole mindset was, I'm going to make every second of every day count. I'm going to turn this into the most positive, productive experience of my life. And when I overcome this time in prison, nothing in life will ever stop me from going towards my goals ever again.
Dang. I've heard this before from other people, even in the industry. It's like, it's all mindset, right? It's, you could be in jail and you have the mindset of this is going to be a positive experience. It turns out to be a positive experience. If you have the mindset of it being a negative experience, which most people would, it's going to be a negative experience. It's such a testament to the mind. and to the power of your mindset. You are in jail. You're in the worst place that you could possibly be, yet you, with the power of your mind, made it a positive experience.
And
So
you
cool.
were a victim in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a quote that I like. It says, "It's okay to admit that you were a victim, but you cannot continue to be a victim."
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is you were innocent, dude. It would have been so easy to sit and play the victim card the entire time you were in there. I shouldn't be here. This is bullshit. Why should I even try? And yet you decided to switch your mindset up, and I think a lot of it was because you took 100% accountability. Because when you take 100% accountability, you can start looking at it and say, you know what? I am innocent, but I shouldn't have been at that party. I shouldn't have been drinking. I shouldn't have been in that fight. And if I
technically, I deserve to be here, even though it wasn't.
If I didn't put myself in that situation, I wouldn't be here.
And there's other things I've done in my life that I should have been put in jail for or whatever. But
the guilt I felt for the way I lived life in general was like that pain. That did something to me. We're motivated by either pain or to seek pleasure in life. That's the way the brain's wired. The pain was so significant, so intense. I was like, dude, I will do anything. If they tell me I have to hold my breath for 10 minutes, like, I'm going to figure out how to do it. That's when it came down to like, okay, I will do anything to seek redemption and persevere, no matter what. And it wasn't just to get through prison. It was like, dude, I got to get out and show people who I truly am. And so on that pursuit of excellence on a personal level, I started learning all of these things. I started applying all these concepts, all the stuff we read in the self-help books, everything the gurus teach. We're privy to all this information.
Yep.
Every single human being can access this information through their own consciousness. That's when I realized, when you hear terms like universal consciousness, infinite intelligence, it is real. I would be doing things in myself for months or years, and then I'd read a book by Napoleon Hill. And I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for freaking 4 years.
Yep.
Or Al Helrod, The Miracle Morning. I'm like, I've been doing this every day. So I started realizing, oh my gosh, like everything that the gurus are teaching, everything that is being taught to the world to succeed, naturally I've gravitated towards those ideas, concepts, and habits.
Yep.
And I've applied them. I mean, I was in my jail cell every day. I would get up in the morning, I'd pray, I'd focus on gratitude, I'd get my energy and perspective right. I'd bust out a bunch of burpees and push-ups and just work out until I couldn't even push my body off the floor. I'd clean up, I'd go sit on my rack, I'd read a book, and any word that I didn't know, I would look it up in the dictionary, and I'd keep a vocab list. And I started memorizing these words and their definitions. I started using them in my letters back home. I started using them in my conversations. I became insatiable for growth. Like when people say, oh, I can't do it, I don't have time. Like, oh, they make excuses like, bro, I was in a jail cell facing life in prison reading the freaking dictionary, changing my vocabulary, changing my memory and speed of thought. I felt myself transform in real time. I was sober, I was learning, I was growing, and that feeling became intoxicating. So when I went to prison, I kept on that path. I would do more push-ups, more burpees. I would work out harder. I read more books. I enrolled in college courses. They had a correspondence program in prison with Coastline University in Orange County. I was like, wow, I could actually get college degrees in prison. And so I took every course available. All day long now I had a focus and a purpose. I was studying in my textbook. I was writing papers. I was reading. And I got 4 associate's degrees during my time in psychology, social behavioral sciences, business, and I think humanities through the arts. And they gave me 6 months off my sentence because of that. So I literally made every day in their count. It got me out of prison early. But not just that. During that process, guys saw how focused I was on personal development. They saw how disciplined I was. No one could outwork me in a workout. No one was more dedicated or diligent than I was. And that's not because I was comparing myself to them. I was just focused. So I started having these youngsters and these people come up and they'd be like, hey man, let me work out with you. Like, you're in great shape. I want to lose some weight. Like, I want to build some muscle before I go home. And then it turned into, hey, what books you reading? Like, I see you always with a book on your rack. What book you reading? And then some of the guys would ask about college courses. And I got them to sign up and do their college work with me. And so all of a sudden I started mentoring these guys in prison. And that's when I realized, like, I saw guys that would never change. Guys with face tattoos, guys who are in there for life, or guys who had been habitual offenders, who come from backgrounds where you're like, this guy's just probably not going to make it, you know? I'd see them start to think differently and talk differently. And they would talk about the future and what they wanted to do. And I'd see them changing in front of me. And I thought, man, this is incredible. These guys are changing because I'm sharing with them what worked for me. And now it's working for them. And that was the moment I realized this is a greater calling for me. I want to come home. I'm going to be a coach. I'm going to share my story. I want to be a speaker. I want to make an impact on the world. And that's when it was no longer about me. The first 3 or 4 years was all about me. I had to focus on my growth. I had to keep people away from me. I had to just be tunnel vision. And then once I got to a certain point, I realized, wow, now I can share this with the world, man, and be of service.
Dude, so for the sake of time, because we are winding down on time here, tell us what is being accomplished today. I mean, I already hinted to it at the beginning. You've coached some of the baddest dudes. Tell us your life now.
Yeah, I mean, I have the life I live today is the life I envisioned and prayed for and dreamt of in that jail cell for all those years. I have my wife, Jessica. We have 3 beautiful children, Mason, Scarlett, Preston. We got one more
Beautiful
on the way.
Family, everybody that's why this is on Facebook. Beautiful, absolute beautiful family.
I'm blessed, man. Those are the faces and people I prayed for every night. All I wanted was a family because I know the pain of not having the parents I needed. I know that pain. And all I wanted to do was have children and have my wife and give them the dream life and have that experience together and raise my children the right way, you know? And I get to do that, man. I'm so blessed. We have a beautiful home. I get to do what I love every day. I founded the company Unstoppable 365. It literally started about 5 years ago, me just sharing my story on Facebook Lives. You know, I got out and I was doing in-person training. And then during COVID, I lost all my clients and revenue overnight because the gym shut down. That was like, I knew where I was going. I knew where I was going to be on stages and build an online company. But the gym represented that first step to work with people and to start build a positive reputation in town. And I did that. And I had a lot of people that were supporting me. They featured me back on the news, like Sean Crane's redemption story. The same news broadcast channel that put my picture up there and said Sean Crane being charged with attempted murder. That's cool. They put my picture on the front page of the paper. And now they're reaching out. Dude, and I'm coaching some of these guys. I had officers from the county jail that I was in reach out for coaching who have hired me since then. Bailiffs, DAs, judges. Like, it's crazy what can take place, right? God works miracles when you do the right thing long enough. But 5 years ago, I just started sharing my story, or 4 years ago during COVID online. And it started growing, man. I started getting people's attention on my Facebook Lives. Guys like Josh Taylor, who you might know, who's in the industry. Victor Rancour reached out, hired me. All of a sudden, I started getting on podcasts. I did Bradley's podcast, Dropping Bombs. Wrote my book that became a bestseller, Prison of Your Own. And this is about the internal prison that most people are trapped in. You know, I had to go to a physical prison to find freedom. Most people are out here with physical freedom, but internally they're trapped. Yep. And I see that all the time. So I wrote the book to tell my story, but to also draw attention to the mindset shift that needs to take place for us to take control of our lives. And it's just been a series, man, of level ups and growth. While I was building my family with Jessica, I was building the company. And then last year I realized, I got to build a team, man. I've done this alone for a couple of years and I'm having success. We're changing lives, making money, we're growing. But I want to take this thing to the moon. I want to create the #1 personal development coaching company specifically for the trades, for blue collar business owners. Because just those guys resonate with my story. They were reaching out to me online. I didn't plan that. I didn't plan for Victor or Tommy or Lance Bachman or all these guys to want to work with me. They just liked the way that I operate. They liked my mentality. We have similarities, And, dude, I called my shot. I said, I'm going to create the #1 personal development program for the trades. And it started taking off. And I'm speaking on Tommy's stages, Lance's events, all these events. And that's when I realized I need a team. I need to build a team of badasses to help me to fulfill this vision and this mission. And so that's when I started building my team at Unstoppable 365. We brought in Whitney Jones to create a women's division because I don't coach women, I coach men. Whitney Jones is a 3-time Miss Olympia. She's incredible. Yeah. Mom of 2, she's 45. She's so athletic and incredible. So we have other female coaches as well. Brought in Dr. J, who's incredible, who does all our clients' blood work, provides supplementation. He does the deep dive into people's health that I don't do, And then we brought on other people, dietitians, other team members, and it's been incredible. The growth we had in 2024, we hit all our numbers, all our goals, and surpassed a lot of our expectations. And it really set the tone and potential for what we're about to do in 2025. So I'm fired up, man. Everything I learned in prison and through my hardships growing up has come back to aid me now. You know, all those lessons, all those moments of pain, all the tears I shed tears of joy now on the daily.
Yeah.
Like this morning, I'm crushing a leg day. I knew I'm coming to do this interview, so I'm doing a intense workout. I'm setting the tone for the day. And I saw a video from last night. My daughter, Scarlett, lost one of her teeth. And I put it on Facebook and Instagram, and I put that song by Tim McGraw, Daddy's Little Girl. I love that song. Dude, I just started crying right then and there in the gym. Tears of joy, bro. I fought so hard to get to this moment. I fought so hard to create her, man, to like fix myself so I could come home and do the right thing for my family and show other men and lead by example how we can create the ultimate life, you know? And like these moments are so special to me now. An average day on a Thursday where I get to talk to my bros, you know, and share my story. Like every little moment I appreciate so much because of what I had to endure to get here. And those are the blessings, man, for anyone listening to this. This is why you fight. You might be struggling with alcohol. You might be struggling with weight and food or your marriage or your business, whatever it is. You fight because on the other side of that fight, man, is so much gratitude. And it's such a different feeling about your life. But you're never going to have that if you're not willing to fight to get what's yours and what you want. And anybody listening to this, like you're capable and you deserve everything that your heart is calling you to achieve. And it's not being greedy or, oh, I want this and that because I want to feel better than other people. Be honest with yourself about what you want and just know that God put that in your heart for a reason. And the moment I realized that and accepted it and dedicated my life to this path, that's when the magic started happening, man. And it progressively gets better. And I'm just grateful every step of the way, man.
The sweetness and joy, like the joy you're talking about when you talk about your child, your daughter, when you cried, you can't have that without having experienced the pain you've gone. And what people don't see when they're in that, they don't see that the joy and this just exquisiteness that you're feeling like when you see your daughter cry. It's the exact opposite of the spectrum from as powerful as your pain was. You know, like we said, you hit that regret. You're on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, and you have to fight to get there. But it's so worth it because those feelings that are going to come are every bit as powerful on the good side. And it's so cool to hear. It's just like, and I have 4 kids myself, and it's like you see these things happening. You were talking about how you're seeing your daughter do that cool stuff with her skates. I see my kid when he'll draw something. He drew a car the other day, and it's like I didn't teach him how to draw the car. He figured that out, and it's just like so exquisite, that joy. So, man, Sean, this has just been so awesome. So, like, seriously, like I'm like getting the chills, like just like so great. For anybody listening, I want to let you know I'm in Sean's program. Justin is in Sean's program. And it's different than anything I've ever experienced because of the authenticity coming through. It's not from, oh, cool, I'm going to start a coaching program. It's literally through like the gates of hell, somebody coming through, overcoming, and then being there to be in your corner. It is awesome. So my plug for you today, Sean, like for sure, anybody that's thinking about it, looking at it, definitely take the time. Sean, can you let anybody know, like, what's the step if they did want to get in touch with you, if they were interested in working with you, what would be the process? I know the book is definitely a start, but what do we do?
Yeah, I appreciate that too. I'm fired up to have you guys on the path and be on this journey with you. So I always tell people, reach out to me on Facebook, Sean Michael Crane. I'm on Instagram, Sean_Crane_official. You can go to unstoppable365.com. But I really like to connect with people, like when they want to change and transform and grow and they have goals. Reach out to me on Facebook. Send me a friend request or DM me. It's me answering all my messages. We can connect and talk about where you're at and where you want to be. And like you said, Ryan, like I was coaching guys in prison for free. This is my purpose, and I feel so blessed to have turned my passion into a profession. Yeah. You know, like being able to get compensated for it and actually build a successful business. I mean, obviously, we want to have the biggest, best results possible, but every day I feel so fortunate and blessed to be able to work with people, and I get to relive my own transformation by working with others and seeing their growth. So it's like I feel extremely blessed. And if you're somebody listening, man, you know you're made for more, reach out. I want to connect with you, and I'd love to support you in that endeavor.
Awesome. Sean, real quick, you and Tommy Mello have a push-up contest. Who wins?
Tommy's pretty heavy. He's 250. I've been cutting right now. I'm like 210. I think I could beat him. you know, and it depends. Some guys, they drop down and do those little alligator arm push-ups, right? I got long arms, bro, right? So like I got long arms. When I'm doing full push-ups, it's like 2 for every 1 that most of these guys are doing. But dude, Tommy's a beast. He's freaking 250. He looks like an NFL linebacker. We probably should do that. We should probably either do it on a live video, or maybe I'll jet out to Arizona and go see him, and we can do a push-up contest. I'm calling the shot though. I'm winning the push-ups right now.
All right, I'll be down to join that if you guys do that.
Yeah, you should, dude. I used to do 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 squats in under an hour before everyone even woke up in the dorm in prison. Before we went to chow, it was dark out, and I'd be in the corner over there, and I'd be busting out my push-ups and squats like a machine. Like that's what I did in there. So I got a little bit of practice in me.
I'll participate as well. I will video the whole thing. So
there you go.
Thanks a ton for coming on, man.
John, man, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. And
thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
And everybody that's listening, thank you for tuning in to another episode. Win your mind, win your market. We love you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.